Okay, well, hello, Federico. Hello, Alfonso. Hello, Chase. It's a pleasure to be with you here in this panel for Global Institute for Digital Competitiveness. Um, Today, we're going to talk about cybersecurity. Uh, that's a topic that I love to speak about, and I want to take advantage of having you right now in this panel to know what do you think about a few things about cybersecurity. I want to know your perception uh, of some of these topics related to cybersecurity. And I have a first question. We all know post-pandemics have taught us that there are virtual ways to complete our tasks, and even have made it possible to do a virtual work from anywhere in the world. What do you think is the main challenge today for cybersecurity in this digital society?
Great
Please.
question.
You get. Should we? Do you want to choose who answers it, Juan Carlos? So to make it equal,
I'm sorry, what?
do you want to choose who answers it?
Yes, okay,
Like a game
let's do
show.
it.
Like a game show.
Okay, okay. Well, let's start with Federico. What do you think, Federico?
It's an excellent question. Due to the fact that, as you know, in New Relic, observability has no limits, right? Anything with a digital pulse is considered an area that we ingest the data from. One thing that I think many people forget is that there are two environments when it comes to data and security. There's what we call the controlled environment, the uncontrolled environment, right? Now, under the controlled environment, there's an arsenal of tools that we all buy, purchase, services, use, specialties like the gentleman over here that are accompanying us, right? That means because we're controlling the network, we're controlling the applications, and even on the cloud level, due to the clout that every company has, we're able to do that. However, when things are transacted outside of the control environment, and most people don't realize it, is through the mobile applications, to the laptops, and any device that's accessing any of our services, those are uncontrolled environments. And so much occurs in that area, gigantic amounts. And this is where most companies really have not looked at ways to protect themselves. So I would say making it very clear what is controlled and uncontrolled, I believe, is the biggest challenge right now. And that goes beyond just access per se.
Thank you, Federico. We work in threat hunting precisely about trust boundaries, and I find your answer very enlightening about it. Alfonso, what do you think?
So I basically agree with Federico. I think that one of the biggest challenges that companies are currently facing on this new era, um, I think, is that companies have been building cybersecurity architectures and have been investing in several tools of cybersecurity for years, and now you don't have a firewall in the home of your employee, right? So it's like now you need to figure it out some ways on how you can protect your data, how you can control in some way, some of the behaviors that most of your employees or users are going to do at their home. So, I mean, it's a complete different game changing this aspect of, working remotely at home. So I think this is why there are several new technologies, startup or companies or products or services that are, of course, helping to companies to adopt those type of new type of cybersecurities or technologies that will allow or are allowing to them to protect better their data, right? So I think that we are seeing a new space of new type of technologies, product and services that will allow to these companies to protect better their data. So I think that's the one of the biggest challenges that we are facing now.
All right, thank you very much. What do you think, Chase?
That's a great question. The biggest issue we see with COVID or post-COVID, the shift to remote work, is it's exacerbated and made much worse a problem that's been around for a long time, which is protecting endpoints. Endpoints, they're the 70% of these attacks are against endpoints or ransomware attacks. Extortionware attacks are going after endpoints. Of course, we're focused on protecting small businesses, so we pay a lot of attention to that. But all these remote work environments have made the business of protecting endpoints way more important than it ever was.
Absolutely.
And what that means essentially is that cyber criminals have a much easier time getting access to endpoints in these remote work environments, which means working in Starbucks, working from home. And majority of the goodies, if you will, and assets that cyber criminals are looking for are on these endpoints. An endpoint, of course, meaning a desktop or a laptop or a server. But in terms of your question, it really means remote workers at home on their laptops on these insecure wireless networks. So endpoints were already a big problem. They're an even bigger problem today in terms of protecting. And we see that a lot of small SMBs, but in particular small businesses and consumers, aren't even aware that this is a massive problem. They hear about cybersecurity, they hear about network security, they hear about, the industry, I think, has a really big marketing problem, but a lot of people don't realize how incredibly vulnerable they are with their computer at home. And there's really not many solutions to protect a lot of little guys. And so anyway, that obviously is our focus, but to me, that's the reason why you're seeing such a massive increase in ransom attacks is all this remote work.
Okay, Federico, do you think a data-oriented approach for cybersecurity? What do you think about a data-oriented approach to cybersecurity?
Ideal, but very unrealistic. I mean,
Okay.
again, coming back to areas that you would think are controlled and uncontrolled. Let me add more color to that, based upon, for example, what Chase just shared, right? In the area of observability, which of course New Relic we're a leader in that. A lot of our customers use our technology, again, to observe their controlled environments. And even if you're talking about areas like Starbucks or stores that you go in, but there are two factors that are very, very important. And talk about data, right? When you think about data, you think about files or messages, and that's great, and that's all good stuff. But how about the data that is within a facility, right? If you think about a coffee shop, you may not think that, but that POS that is not usually owned by them, there's a lot of rich data there, right? Or even, and I know it sounds very, very crazy out there, but even the coffee machines or the air conditioning systems or the human resources scan-ins, these all have data, and all confidential data that is not even, as Chase put it, if I may say, endpoints that they're not even looking at. They're not even including it in their observability mix.
Okay.
My role, one of my roles, now my third year at New Relic, is to have them see the observability has to mean your entire business. And when you're talking about all these areas, that's how we describe them, as black boxes and blind spots. Areas of data that are very important and urgent to your business, but there's little or no observability. So we like to work with people that are specialties in this area in security, that understand, identify those black boxes, and we are able to actually, with them, not only they protect it and we observe, and together is the best way that I know that I can do that. So again, the data concept is great if you understand that data is more than just messages and documents.
Okay, Federico, just because you work with observability, that's why I ask you that question specifically.
Thank you.
And yes, of course, we've seen in the past hackers getting access to coffee machines. We saw that in DEF CON a few years ago.
Yes, you see?
Yeah, that's right. Okay, I have another question for you guys. Cyber criminals are making headlines every day with some sophisticated attacks targeting production lines, and also with less sophisticated attacks like phishing and impersonation. Who do you think are more vulnerable today, people or companies? Let's start with Alfonso for that question.
Sure. So, I mean, the companies are vulnerable by people, right? So, I mean, the biggest concern in companies. You can acquire the best cybersecurity technology, and if you don't have, I don't know, policies, or if you didn't invest a little bit on training people in terms of, improve cybersecurity culture and all of that, at the end, to the same people, you will have a lot of concerns or a lot of risk in terms of cybercrime or cyber attacks. So, in my opinion, if we want to split the part of companies and people, I think it's people, because at least companies have a budget and they can invest on technologies, or on maybe on they have money to invest and acquire some specific type of technologies to protect their data or whatever. In terms of people, they don't have even the knowledge of why they need to protect their data. So they don't even care to understand, or they don't even have the specific knowledge on, maybe using an antivirus, or why privacy is important, or what is phishing, or why they should understand better about some specific topics. So I think people in that specific case, I think they are more vulnerable than companies.
Okay, what do you think, Chase? Companies or people?
Actually, I think it's both. But people are obviously vulnerable. People are the ones clicking on the bogus phishing link, or going to the weird porn site and getting the ransomware, the malware, extortionware, etc. But see, the problem that, well, at least from our perspective, again, we're focused around small businesses and consumers. There is, in particular, businesses, they're not protecting their endpoints. Again, coming back to endpoints again, they're actually, they take these actions after they're attacked, or after they have to pay a ransom, or in Bitcoin or in cryptocurrency. So they're kind of equally negligible, because if small businesses were out investing more in protecting their endpoints, you would have a significant drop in the volume of potential phishing attacks that would be blocked against people, right? But the problem is that those protections are not in place. A lot of these new technologies, this AI and machine learning, are incredibly advanced today and can block a lot more attacks than they used to be able to do, at least around endpoints. So I believe there'd be a significant reduction in attacks. Humans would be less, you're basically putting a limiter on a human, because they're going to they're going to do something stupid or bad anyway, and the AI and the technology can watch out for them better.
Okay, in the end, I believe companies are made by people, right? So if some person, if one person, if one employee does something bad, it will have an impact on the whole company. I believe that thin line of that in the past used to separate companies from people is getting thinner and even non-existent in these days. Or what do you think, Federico?
Well, I believe it's even a lot greater than we think. As we're very data driven, as you put it, companies in a traditional manner have been doing a lot of the job for the hackers by creating data lakes. Now, I don't want to go against anybody that loves data lakes, but what are you actually doing? You're collecting all the important information, you're sticking it somewhere, and because of the technologies around creating that, you're creating honey spots for hackers to go into. I don't need to hack your whole system. I just need to find where you're storing your data lake, how you're securing it, and how I can, either through people or non-people. That's one thing. The other thing, and again, that comes from our observability industry, is we live in real time. We don't look back at what happened 2 days ago, right? And though observability is evolved from just looking at systems and monitoring in real time to actually observing business, and that's our area. But security also has to happen in real time, right? Just tracing something backwards or looking through logs and seeing, that's all good stuff of forensic investigation. But unless you go real time, and unless you actually understand where you're collecting all your data in, without having the focuses on these two, it just makes it too easy to be attacked.
So do you think we should focus on prevention and not on forensics, right?
I believe that, and again, I want to respect all our friends in there that, it's there's a reason why observability has grown so much. There's a reason why it's gone beyond just looking at monitors and servers and applications. There's a reason why security groups are working with us and feeding us their data in real time, because we're able to correlate activity from what's happening as an attack versus what's happening in the system. So there are many things that occur within a business, small or like gigantic, that are technically not wrong. Nobody hasn't. For example, if you have for some reason 30 transactions of a specific account and accessing a system in less than 15 minutes, right? That's not really something wrong as long as all the access has been done. But in our world, that's an anomaly, and that's something we can detect in real time, right? If you're looking at security from breaking locks or users that are not qualified, that will only get you so far. Real time. And the advances of observability, I think, and again, I'm talking because I'm New Relic, right? Because that's our thing. But unless you're really playing in real time, wow, those guys are in and out before you know it.
Okay, Chase, do you think we are able to do a full prevention today?
For who?
For companies.
No, because I mean, you guys know that there's no 100% fail-safe in cybersecurity. All you can do is try to get as close to that number as possible. It's a statistical inevitability that something will eventually get through. Plus, all the bad guys are just as good, if not as good as the good guys. And that, you guys know this, going to DEF CON and obviously, et cetera. There's a lot of back and forth and switchovers between the parties. So it's never ending. One side gets strong, other side gets stronger, and we get strong, kind of round and round we go. But I think there's a lot that can be done with kind of AI and machine learning. I think what we're seeing happen at least in the endpoint space around artificial intelligence, is going to give the ability for small businesses and businesses in general to have a much more thorough level of protection than they ever could have had before, because it's effectively, as it gets smarter and stronger, it's like adding bodies. It's like having your own SOC team. And so really what's happening is the companies can get stronger and stronger. That will help weed out the little guy attacks and the inexperienced attackers. There will always be experienced attackers. That's never going away. But the whole point here is just to reduce the volume, right? To get on the better side of these statistics, so that the favor is in the odds of the odds are in the favor rather of the business.
But how do you think we can fill the gap between that volume reduction and the remaining attacks that could be hit or one company?
Is that for me?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, again, to me and to us, what's happening today and what's so amazing, and what I think is going to be available to small businesses, SMBs, small businesses, really every business, and I think eventually every consumer, is this. And again, we're looking at this from the lens of endpoints. So I'm really responding more from the endpoint perspective. But it's this ability to have machine learning and AI essentially acting as a third-party monitoring and remediation system. So it's able to take its own actions that really didn't exist before, kind of in the traditional EDR, endpoint detection and response space. So now that world is here today, and the ability to run, I think, a 24/7 virtual SOC, anywhere in the world, and to have a combination of those two components is an incredibly powerful evolution of cybersecurity that really, up until recently, only large businesses have been able to have. And so now that's available, really, that's becoming more available to smaller businesses, and I think eventually to consumers. That is an incredible innovation that's going to make it a lot more difficult for at least inexperienced cyber criminals to ransom everyday people.
Okay, thank you. Alfonso, what do you think about security awareness for people? I mean, we've been talking from the endpoint perspective, from the observability, from the company's angle, but we still need to do something about people, right?
Right. Yeah. And as I already said, at the end, companies are built by people, right? And in terms of cybersecurity, even if you invest in the best technologies in the market, if you put all the type of any cybersecurity protection tools, prevention tools, whatever, if you don't invest on cybersecurity culture, on awareness in this case specifically, you will not reach that number that Chase was talking before, right? Like if you want to reduce the risk of having a data leak or whatever, or any type of cyber attack, you need also to invest on cybersecurity awareness. So I think that's one of the things that not most of the companies are doing right now. That's something that, in my personal opinion, you need to improve in terms of your budget, the type of technology that are available in the market, product, services, policies. I think there is a lot of stuff that companies needs to do. And basically, in my personal opinion, I think that most of the companies that don't reach this stage where they understand that cybersecurity awareness is very important in a cybersecurity strategy are small and medium companies, right? Maybe a big company has a plan and a strategy in these terms, but medium and small companies don't. So I think this is a huge space that we need to improve in the near future. And yeah, basically to me, it's very important to, comply with a good cybersecurity strategy in terms of applying a good cyber, in this case, cybersecurity awareness program in a company, right?
Yeah, we must protect process, people, and technology.
Right. Yeah.
Great, thank you very much. I have my last question, and it's kind of philosophical. What do you think about what do you think about digital governments, digital banking, blockchain, but not only as a technology? How to balance privacy versus cybersecurity in digital governments and digital banking?
That's a good one.
That's a good one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, who wants to start?
How to balance, again, just so I understand, how to balance the privacy of the individual while at the same time implement digital banking, correct? Is that the question?
The balance between privacy and
Mhm.
cybersecurity in those
Correct.
scenarios. That's a hard one, right?
No,
I
well,
can go for it. One. I give it a
Okay,
shot.
okay, Chase, go ahead.
Well, I'm not a digital banking expert or a crypto expert, but before this, I spent a long time in digital advertising and kind of grew up in that industry. And one of the big trade-offs there is exactly what you just described. It's consumers giving up more of their personal information in exchange for value, in exchange for better targeted advertising, better ability to shop, better offers, etc. And it works. I mean, the industry has a really bad, at least digital marketing has a very bad stigma now of, data privacy, data leaks, people finding out about personal information. And that's all very scary stories that, consumers are always listening to, and it scares them. But the reality of it is, at least in digital marketing, it was a great trade-off, because the more data you gave up, the more efficient and better your life was with marketing and products and services. So I think a similar analogy, like I said, I'm not an expert on the crypto banking side, but I think the same analogy, right? The more, I think consumers are naturally scared because of the news. But the reality, I think, is the more data you share, the more value that you receive in return. So to me, the industry has a big marketing problem. They have to do a better job of communicating that.
Okay, thank you, Chase. What do you think, Alfonso or Federico?
I mean,
I'll go last. I'll go last.
All
okay.
right.
Go ahead, Alfonso.
I think that an important concept here is privacy by design, right? I think that we are going to see more in tech companies, product services, this concept of designing products or tech products in this case, with architectures that are going to have as a core value proposition the terms of privacy, because we are looking every day that people, users, are understanding better about the value of their information, their personal data. We are living in a world that every time every country are applying new cybersecurity or privacy laws, like data privacy laws, actually, like GDPR and other ones. So I I truly believe that to reach that balance, um, we need to change a lot of things in terms of how we develop technology, in terms of how countries and government are going to imply or are going to develop some specific laws also, in terms of how the market is going to ask you to improve your security and to protect privacy in terms of data. So I think there are a lot of stuff that is coming in next years, and I think that is going to change a lot. Right now, I think that we don't have that balance, of course, but I think that in the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years, we will reach that using the same technology and using new principles and new way to develop technology.
You mentioned something I find quite interesting. Um, People should start making sense of the value of their data, of their personal data, for instance. Um, I like that because that question comes from you have seen there are many groups in different countries fighting against um, digital governments that are taking out their data, for instance, with speed cameras, for instance, or digital surveillance or something like that. That's what led me think on how to balance privacy with the cybersecurity, or in general, the security a country or a city needs. Now is your turn, Federico.
Well, I of course have to tread lightly because of observability, right? So if you think about New Relic, it's now going into our 15th year, right? Starting from looking at back in 2007, specific individual applications to everything with a digital pulse that somehow connects to the cloud. We've been cloud since day one, right? And a lot has evolved in 15 years in our industry, right? Mm-hmm. I do believe, and not just from a philosophical concept, from a realistic concept, that it is a gigantic misunderstanding that in order to provide better security, we need to reduce privacy. I think that's the biggest issue. And that creates fear on every single area possible. In observability, we're able to observe such complex scenarios, whether they're man done or machine done, right? Because we have to look at that in real time, and we're able to do this without any personal identifiable information. I mean, that's a fact, okay, right? So basically speaking, as we go into more areas and more data coming into our system, artificial intelligence and understanding natural language and people and behavior, that's great. However, applied intelligence, which is the next level, the next generation of artificial intelligence, is able to do correlations in real time among so many different data formats, and it's able to measure anomalies. And this is what we deal with every day, right? All of that without having to get that natural understanding of language, without teaching the AI systems. This is something we're doing on a very complex manner. So I think, first of all, it's a misunderstanding that you got to give up your privacy so you can get better security. You can, if you're able to really apply observability in every area possible, you'll understand how an attack will affect so many different systems. Attacks in security are more than smash and grab. As you know, that biggest Sony attack, I think back a few years back, it was sleeping in a company system for 9 months, right? Before it actually took over. If they had observability and they were able to correlate every element, they'd find that agent immediately. So I think that's the best thing. Applied intelligence and understanding the complexities of real time completely will drastically change. So if you understand, whether it's our group or any of our people in our industry, we're handling data in real time from every major auto manufacturer, digital company. Every mobile application that you're using right now today has a observability agent, one or the other. And that's a fact. You know, Agent Smith does exist, right? And he is looking at every activity, correct? But can we do this without having the people's privacy information? Of course we can, and we've proven it. And we actually, if you look at our security page, it talks exactly about our power to be able to do this, and at the same time, not get information from the private individual. And let me finish off with this. One of the ideas with the metaverse, or however you want to define it, is people creating new identities. right? So,
Yeah.
oh, great, I'm going to find the identity of somebody that doesn't exist, right? We got to be able to think even further and faster than that.
All right, Federico, thank you very much. So it's possible to get security without
You have to be.
compromising personal identifiable data.
I believe so. I believe
All
so.
right,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you very much. Okay, guys, thank you very much for being here with us in this panel from Global Institute of Digital Competitiveness. I want to thank you, to say you goodbye for tonight. Thank you very much for your answers, for your appreciations, for your input in all of those matters that we have talked about. If you feel to do a final words, be my guest.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
Yeah.
No, thank you. It's really great to share and to see other professionals, and we of course will only get better once we all work together. So
Yeah.
Thanks, Juan. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so
Thank
Thank
much.
you very
everyone.
much. Bye bye, Chase. Bye,
Take care.
Alfonso.
See
Bye,
you.
Federico.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Ciao.